the courage to drop names and tell who is doing what where, but she mentioned that. So perhaps if she comes here, she might want to elaborate that in details. Who is doing what within the NPA?
Okay, so more evidence then from Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi at the ad hoc committee's inquiry in Parliament. We're going to continue with those proceedings shortly, but for now, let's take you over to the news desk.
Thank you, Cathy. On the top stories, Mkhwanazi testifies in the Parliament's ad hoc committee, and South African Global Summit Flotilla activists land at the OR Tambo International Airport. For SFM News, I'm Ondelambana, and a very good morning. KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi says he does not regard the safety of his family as more important than other South Africans. He is testifying for the second day before Parliament's ad hoc committee looking into concerns of national security. It was established to probe allegations of criminal infiltration, corruption and political interference in the criminal justice system that Mkhwanazi made in July. Yesterday, Mkhwanazi's evidence was led by the evidence leader, Advocate Norman Arendse, and today he is facing questions from members of the committee. Asked whether his family is safe, Mkhwanazi answered that their safety remains in the hands of SAPS members.
The safety of my family is a responsibility of police officers around the country. I don't have money, honorable chair and members, to hire bodyguards for my family members. Their safety can only be guaranteed by men and women in blue that are out there that's supposed to protect everyone else. Their safety is equal to the safety of every citizen. Their vulnerability in terms of crime applies to the rest of the citizens of this country. So they are not different to anyone else. There's no special provisions for them.
The Department of Basic Education says funds have been released following delayed payments of education assistance and general school assistance under the Basic Education Employment Initiative. The Education Department, together with the Department of Employment and the Industrial Development Corporation, are holding a joint press briefing at GCIS in Pretoria, announcing the resolution around the release of payments. The BEEI, currently in its fifth phase, was first launched in 2020 as part of the presidential employment stimulus aimed at reducing youth unemployment while supporting the education sector. There were delays for September payments for thousands of those under the program. Basic Education Minister Sivuyo Gwagube has apologized to those affected. Parts of Pretoria, including Hatfield, the Bryanston Estate supply area and surrounding areas, remain without power following a fault on the City of Tshwane's network. The municipality says efforts are underway to restore supply. Large parts of the western, southern and northern areas of the city were affected after a trip at the Kwaha 275 132 kilowatt infeed substation last night, reportedly caused by lightning. The city's Lindela Mashiko says the estimated time of restoration remains unknown.
Our switching team has been dispatched to attend to the fault, and restoration work will begin as soon as the problem is identified. At present, the estimated time of restoration is not yet known. Residents in the affected areas are urged to remain patient as technicians work to safely isolate and repair the fault. Power will be restored in stages once the system has been stabilized.
Home Affairs Minister Dr. Leon Schreiber has issued a directive that extends the validity of the Zimbabwean exemption permit until 28 May 2027. The said permit, which allows approximately 178,000 Zimbabweans to live, work and study in South Africa lawfully, was set to expire on the 28th of November 2025. Kenny Mapanga reports.
A successful court challenge against the termination of the ZEP placed the permit's future squarely in the minister's hands and directed that any decision about the permit must be preceded by a rational, constitutionally fair process. Schreiber, however, confirms in the directive that the consultation process is still ongoing. This latest directive protects any holder of the permit from being arrested, ordered to depart, or be detained for the purposes of deportation for any reason related to him or her not having any valid exemption permit. Cathy Mohlahlana, SABC News, Johannesburg.
South African Global Summit Flotilla activists have landed at the OR Tambo International Airport from Jordan. They were abducted by the Israeli forces on their way to Gaza to deliver humanitarian aid and stop the Israel blockade. Their families are at the airport to welcome them back home. Jama Mugwa says he's happy his mother came back alive.
I'm just glad that, with the people that have been there, no one has been harmed, no one has been killed, and it's just I'm glad to be able to welcome her home. We were worried. Collectively, we were all worried because there was obviously the possibility that things could end horribly, We know that a couple years back, there was actually a drone attack that happened on one of the flotillas. 10 or 11 people were killed, if I'm not mistaken. So we were just hoping that there wasn't going to be a repetition of that.
Recapping the top story, KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi says he does not regard the safety of his family as more important than other South Africans. He's testifying for the second day before Parliament's ad hoc committee looking into concerns of national security. I'm Ondilambara for SFM News headlines at 11:30.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Amavubi have a big plan to finish as high as possible in Group C. However, Bafana Hugo believe nothing will stop them from collecting 3 points. This is the 2026 FIFA World Cup African qualifier. Catch South Africa versus Rwanda on Tuesday, 14 October at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC3, SABC Plus, and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Then on SABC radio stations at 6 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
This October month, SAFM focuses on cybersecurity awareness. As we live more of our lives online, staying safe in the digital world has never been more important. From spotting cyber threats to protecting your personal data, SAFM brings you the conversations that empower you to stay secure. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Youth football is on a real vibration in Chile. 24 under-20 national teams are fighting for the ultimate glory. Rally behind African champions, Amachita, including 3 continental representatives, Egypt, Morocco, and Nigeria. This is the 2025 FIFA Under-20 World Cup. Catch the action live on SABC1, SABC Plus, SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, and SABC radio stations from 27 September to 20 October 2025. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Great news, travelers! FlySafair is now flying between Cape Town and Hoedspruit 3 times a week. So, whether you want to chase the Big 5 in Kruger, soak up the views at God's Window, or wind through the beautiful panorama route, Hoedspruit is the perfect launchpad to some of SA's amazing natural treasures. Ready to go from coastlines to canyons in just a few clicks? Book flights now at flysafair.co.za from just 1,570 Rand. FlySafair, for the love of flying. T's and C's apply.
The Warriors are aware they will not get on a flight to the United States, Mexico, and Canada, but they are still hungry for victory, while Bafana want to return to the summit of Group C. This is the 2026 FIFA World Cup African qualifier. Be part of the action. Zimbabwe versus South Africa on Friday, 10 October at 5:30 p.m. Live on SABC2 and SABC Plus. Then on SABC radio stations at 6 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Spring is in the air, meaning it's almost time for the 10th SA Garden Day on Sunday, the 12th of October. Celebrate the day with a garden party, lunch under the trees, or cake at a community garden, and invite your friends, family, or neighbors to enjoy your garden with you. Visit gardenday.co.za for inspiration and share pictures of your celebration on social media with #GardenDaySA. SA Garden Day, Sunday, the 12th of October.
We have different languages and cultures, but what we have in common is that we all want a dignified funeral and for our loved ones not to worry about money when the time comes. Trust Clientele to provide you with affordable funeral cover that will pay out within 24 hours. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's SAFM to 48031. SMS now. Clientele Life is a licensed life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates, terms, and conditions apply.
Pneumococcal disease can strike at any time, especially if you live with a chronic condition or have weakened immunity. If you're 19 and older with the chronic disease, vaccination can help protect against pneumococcal pneumonia. The risk increases for people 65 and older, and vaccination is advised to help prevent serious illness. Ask your healthcare professional about pneumococcal vaccination. Don't wait. Vaccinate. Brought to you by Pfizer.
The Talking Point with Cathy Mohlahlana. Weekdays, 9 a.m. till midday.
All right, it's 11 after 11 o'clock. Welcome to the third and final hour of the Talking Point today. We're still going to continue with our coverage of what is unfolding in Parliament at that ad hoc inquiry hearing. And then once we're done with that, depending on what happens, if they take a tea break, then we'll bring you some of the other programming that we had scheduled for the day.
To IDEC and harassing people. So my question, is that allowed for a police officer to resign after resigning when he was still investigating cases? Then he took the docket with himself to another state institution, because IDEC is not. They are accounting to NDPP. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, General. In absentia.
Thank you so much, honorable members. The last part on IDEC, Honorable Member earlier spoke about the names of members that are working at IDEC that are supposed to be part of the rogue team. And I said earlier, I isolated one, Mr. Padachi. There are many members working there. Yes, some of the names that you mentioned are part of the team, but not all the members that are part of the team are bad members. They are participating, yes, but at least they are the ones that are sharing us information about the road. Other than that, we would not have known about what's happening inside. Thanks to them. But we'll be able to give you their details when the time is right. We're not going to do it now. Those that are, yes, they are painted back because they're inside, but they are able to tell us about the wrong that is happening inside. So we are happy to have them there so that they pass this information to us. And that help us to be able to know what's happening inside IDEC. The status of the case dockets, honorable members, this is not only the problem with IDEC. I think the Portfolio Committee of Police, honorable chair of the Portfolio Committee is here today, and the honorable member. It's some of the things that might need to be looked at, because when the ACPS is brought before the committee to account, we account on case dockets. But once a case docket move over to IPID, on the system remains with ACPS. But the SAPS doesn't know what's happening in that docket. It's seeing an IPIT, and IPIT is not held accountable most of the time because they don't have a system to monitor those dockets. Similar happened to IDEC. IDEC takes the docket away from the police station, and they register a case at the police station, and they take it away and they disappear. It remains open on the system and the police, and it affects the detective performance, and yet that docket sits somewhere else, and it's a responsibility of another entity. So it's some of the controls that might need to be looked at. Yes, DPCI is within the organization, but they also have dockets that are sitting with them that are registered at police stations. And there's no updating of the information sometimes at the station, but at least with DPCI, they have access into the system, so they update the status of the investigation remotely from wherever they are having the docket with them, similar to the task teams that they're able to do that. But the entities that are outside the police system, which is IDEC and IPIT, we find it difficult in terms of managing the investigation. So it would be easy for a docket that was with IPIT originally, we know that it's with IPIT, for that docket to have moved from IPIT to IDEC, and we won't know about it because it was anyway outside the police control. So it's some of the challenges that we will want to fix. The issue of Gerald Khumalo of KZN, Major Gerald Khumalo, together with Gerald Cele matter, I think I spoke about it yesterday, that Gerald Khumalo did not resign from the police, and therefore Gerald Cele did not get his way. The Gerald Cele will come here and he will confirm that I was not very pleased with what he attempted to do at the time. So I think that matter we can close it like that because it never went anywhere. Yes, I did highlight the issue of RPM in KZN. Honorable Chair members, yeah, when I mentioned the issue of RPM is because I wanted, as I was asked to give a background about the members that I was accused of having stopped them from doing their work, whether these members were under my control or not, and how they came about to be in KZN, and what were they doing in KZN. That's why I ended up talking about this. I still believe that the leadership of the police, the National Commissioner, who else that deployed them, they might need to come and explain what were they doing there and why not. Why was I not part of it? Honorable Chair members, the Constitution of the Republic and the Police Act only makes reference to two individuals to be in charge of the service. The National Commissioner, as appointed by the Constitution as well as Police Act. The National Commissioner appoints the Provincial Commissioner, also recognized by the Constitution and confirmed by the Police Act. Those are only two. And the rest of the people or employees that we have in the organization are referred to as members. So when you have the system designed by the Constitution like that, and which similar happens in Parliament, you have a minister who's a cabinet member, then you have the president. Yes, the president appoints deputy ministers, but we've seen it many times. When a minister is out of the country or is not well, and for whatever good reason, a deputy minister does not act as a minister. Another minister acts. But in South African Police Service, where you have a national commissioner appointed in line with the Constitution and the provincial commissioner appointed in line with the Constitution, when a national commissioner is not in the office, a member gets appointed to be acting national commissioner. That's why we are in this dilemma today, because there are so many generals sitting at the head office that are appointed by national commissioners and given portfolios at the national office, and they feel they're too powerful. And that's what contributes to this. The national commissioner goes on holiday in 31st of December. He appoints a member who is a deputy national commissioner as the acting national commissioner, which means by default that person must be in charge of the provincial commissioner. Literally, that's what it means. Is that what the Constitution envisaged? Is that what the Act envisaged? I'm not a legal person to answer the question, but the national commissioner appoints in black and white and say you are the acting national commissioner for a period, I'm not in the office. Then you're going to find that that acting person will end up sitting in meetings. The BOC that you're talking about, the Board of Commissioners, is a structure that is catered for in the legislation between, and is explicit, between the national commissioner and the provincial commissioners. Nobody else. But I invite you to go and see the minutes of the POC in the police. There's 9 provincial commissioners and 1 national commissioner. That makes 10. But there's more than 10, 11, 12 lieutenant generals that are sitting at the head office. That are part of this POC. So whatever is discussed at the POC is dominated by these generals at the head office. I know that because I come from there. I was part of those. So the voice of the provincial commissioner gets silenced in such meetings. You don't have a voice much at that POC. You might say something, but the divisional commissioner is influencing the national commissioner, or the DNC has decided. So therefore, we must follow the line. So it's part of the problems that we have in this organization. So I hope if those things are introduced, then we're not going to have a deployment of members that are coming to the province that the provincial commission doesn't know about, to avoid the RPM things. Because ultimately, the provincial commissioner must be accountable for what's happening in the province. And if the constitution says the provincial commission must engage with the executive authority of the province, and in order to satisfy the communities of that province, we have to find a way of making some amendments in the legislation so that we empower such to be done at the provincial level. Honorable member, you spoke earlier about the IDEC and the powers that they have. I think the Amendment Act of the NPA, if I'm not mistaken, it should be in section 7 somewhere about. It's outlined what the IDEC is supposed to be investigating. But the first part is that they're dealing with serious and complex cases. And then they list type of charges related to that seriousness, fraud, corruption, and so forth. Act of dishonesty is also written somewhere there. So I like to believe that if you take that which is in a section of the NPA Amendment Act and you look at what IDEC is doing currently and balance the two, you're going to find gaps. That surely IDEC, whatever cases they have before them, might not necessarily fulfill that which that section on the Amendment Act was envisaged. So if that happens, then you might need to ask yourself a question as a legislature whether did you take the right decision to establish this entity? Or else maybe you might want to look at taking these powers you gave it to this entity back to the DPCI, and you look at how do you empower the DPCI to be fully in control and independently so to be able to prosecute these cases. Because a typical example, if a police officer wants to come and search your house, an investigator is going to make a submission to the prosecutor will sign off and give it to the magistrate will authorize a warrant for that to happen. But at IDEC, at NPA, that doesn't happen. The prosecutor that is part of the investigation signs this thing, and they go straight to your house to come and search. They don't go via all these other people. It might be quicker to resolve problems, but there's an abuse of the system that is built into that, which I wanted the committee to look at. I hope this is just about everything you've asked.
Thank you, General. Chair, you were out and I've abused you a bit, but thank you so much, General. I think the only last thing which perhaps my question on that was your take, but I think you closed it nicely because I was asking whether is it right that perhaps these functions of IDEC, some of them, or in fact disband that IDEC and have all these things back to the SAPS. I think it's upon us, but thank you, Chair.
Honorable Nomvalo.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and greetings to members of the ad hoc committee. And good morning, Shamas. My first question relates to a letter.
You say good morning, what?
Shamas. It's Tagazel.
Oh.
Yes.
No. I have been addressing you as Charlie. It's not something unfamiliar. I just wanted to understand and know so that I can use it as well in future. Thank you so much. Shamas.
The first question I have, Chair, relates to a letter dated the 31st of December 2024, which was written by the Minister to disband the political killings task team. Now, in the last paragraph of the letter, the Minister says, the final and closing report must be submitted to the Ministry Management Executive Committee meeting late January 2025, the date of which will be communicated as soon as possible. Following from that, was that report submitted according to your knowledge, Shamase? Was it submitted to the Minister?
I was informed that it was submitted.
Do you know the content of the letter? Are you aware of what was entailed in the letter that was submitted to the Minister?
No, I'm not privy to such a communication. I've not seen it.
Okay. Secondly, I want to get the correct sequence of events here. My understanding is that under normal circumstances where there is no political killings task team, dockets which relate to criminal matters are stored in the police stations under the supervision of the investigating officer. Now, this political killings task team was established in 2018 when the scourge of political killings was rife already in KZN. Was the political killings task team only dealing with cases which were reported to it, or there are cases which they took from the police stations which were already reported prior to their establishment? That is my first question. You can answer, General.
Yeah, the team, when it started, I think I will have explained it somewhere that when it started, it had a number of cases that were already registered, that they took over. That obviously those dockets will have been at the police stations that were given to the team when it started. And as the team was working, the team also will have generated new cases that will have happened if there's an incident that happens and the case is open, that case gets transferred to the task team. And in other instances, you're going to have parallel investigations that will be, while the team is investigating one case and they discover that that case has got a linkage, or the suspect they're looking for has got a linkage into another case. And then they go and request that that case be brought in and merged with this one, just so that the chances of conviction can be improved. So that's a variety of dockets that the team was handling. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, no, you have answered it adequately. And then the minister was appointed in July as the minister 2024, and the letter was issued on the 31st of December 2024. So the conclusion from that is that the period between the assumption of responsibility by the minister and the decision that was taken was 6 months. Between that period, did the minister ever summon a report of these dockets to have an understanding of what is happening and to have an understanding of progress that has been made? Have you ever had a meeting, if not you, the national, according to your knowledge, if not you, the national commissioner, with the minister, wherein the dockets were a subject matter?
Honorable Chair and members, the only engagement we've ever had with the Minister of Police is when the Minister was appointed as a Minister of Police. We were all invited in Pretoria where he gave the Minister presentation. But in that presentation, there was nothing talking about task teams at all. And that was the only closest engagement we've ever had with the minister where he briefed him about the state of policing. So when the decision was taken about the disestablishment of this PKTT, we hadn't had any opportunity to engage with the minister. At least I know myself, I was not invited to meet with him. And later I learned that from the National Commissioner himself also did not have an opportunity to talk to him about it, neither General Kumalo. But when you read what the minister is saying on his letter, is that he's been briefed. So when the minister has been briefed, it simply says someone told the minister that this team must be disestablished. So it is that someone that I believe drafted that letter. And I can speculate, I can assume as to who the person could be. Why will I assume? Is because I've got evidence that junior members of the South African Police Service are communicating with the executive on how they must manage the National Commission. You will have a General Spear sending a WhatsApp to the Deputy Minister of Police. I don't know who's the Deputy Minister. I'm still investigating that part. But he will send this WhatsApp message and tell the Deputy Minister, make suggestion, the Deputy Minister, you must hold the National Commission accountable with this and that and that. And you will further say, I've even shared these things with comrades so and so. These are General Spear writing messages to the Deputy Minister. And I told the two Deputy Ministers when we met with the acting minister recently, that one of you is part of the problem. I just don't know yet who, but one of the deputies is part of this problem. And so I said it in their face, they can't deny it, they'll confirm. I have WhatsApp messages, therefore we are part of the investigation, we'll establish who is this deputy minister. But that's just a typical example. I don't think I've shared with the members. I don't know if you have that WhatsApp. SC, I did communicate with yourself about this one. I don't think we presented, because I can show you as an example of how General Spear sends communications to deputy ministers and about issues that he's supposed to address with the National Commission, but he addresses the deputy minister. So the deputy minister must come back and make the National Commission to account on it. So if you want to, maybe you can flight it on the screen if need be, because I do have some of these WhatsApp messages. That the fortunate part, he did not just send it to the deputy minister, he also forwarded these messages to the Office of the Inspector General of Intelligence.
So, following the narrations that you have given us, it is reasonable to make a conclusion that the decision to disband the political killings task team was taken by the minister without having requested for any report from the relevant people within the SAPS with regards to the status of the work of the political task team, of the political killings task team. Is that the correct conclusion to make according to what we have said? Do you agree with that conclusion?
I strongly believe, Honorable Chair and members, that what is contained on this letter is not the minister's words. I strongly believe that. If the minister was honest, he will say that someone made me sign this. I did not write it myself. As when the other letters that were signed off by the former Inspector General of Intelligence that were drafted by Jaram Mdluli, that the Inspector General did not write, but she signed them, the letter. And I said, I invite Advocate to Jay Cavender to come here so she can confirm those things, because she used to work in that office of the Inspector General. So when the Chief of Staff, Mr. Nkabinde, says to me, the letter's been going back and forth, it made me believe that he was a facilitator of this letter coming from somewhere where it was being drafted to the minister for signature and back being corrected and eventually gets a signature. So I like to believe, as much as the minister has to take ownership of the letter, his signature is here, but I don't think he's the author of this thing. Because if he was, then the question would be, Minister, why didn't you feel that it's important to first sit down with the National Commissioner and talk about this? How come in such a drastic decision based on the wrong information. I mean, if you look at what that paragraph says, in 2019, that's a wrong thing to start. A directive was made to the National Commission of Police following the Mohlahlana Commission report. I presented before this committee that the President of the Republic, on the 18th of May 2018, he addressed the citizen in Pietermaritzburg about this matter. On the 21st, there was a meeting of the IMC. On the 24th of May 2018, the President was in this House of Parliament. We spoke about the IMC. But comes the Minister of Police, who arrived in July 2024 as the Minister of Police. He comes and he says, this task team was established in 2019 based on the Mohlahlana Commission. We can see the person who's misinformed, he's a year late about the dates. So it's part of the things I wanted to address to the minister. Had he given me an opportunity, we're going to talk about. But he felt that I'm less important to be listened to, and he goes ahead and enforces this letter. So it's a typical example of why I'm saying the minister did not draft this thing. Someone wrote this, and he made the minister to sign. But if he says it was on his own who wrote this letter, I hope that what he's going to say here under oath versus what the criminal investigation is going to uncover is going to collaborate. Otherwise, there's going to be a problem.
I think I'm satisfied with your response, General. On page 20, paragraph 37.
Before you go to the next question, just to check, General, because Honorable Nomvalo says, at the time the minister signed or sent, or the letter was sent on the dissolution of the PKTT, had he demanded a report, a status report to say, this is the work that has been done by the PKTT. It is succeeding or it has failed. So here with this letter, be informed that we are dissolving it. Was there any request for that status report?
I will expect, Honorable Chair, that the minister understands that the accounting officer in the police is a national commissioner. Therefore, a report must be requested from the national commissioner. So, what the national commissioner is saying is that he was never requested. But the national commissioner will come here tomorrow. I'm sure he will come and confirm that. But he says he was not informed, he was not requested to provide such. But on the defense of Minister Mkhunu, I cannot say that he did not receive any briefing from somewhere. There's a possibility that he might have been briefed by the Deputy National Commissioner, Crime Detection, JRSB. I'm not saying he did, but there's a possibility that he would be briefed by him. A person who might claim that says, I'm in charge of all the investigations in the country, so therefore I'm briefing you, here's the position. And if he believes that, well, it's up to the minister then to account why he believes something that comes from a junior person, but not the accounting officer.
Do you have any recollection of yourselves who were involved being requested to provide any report?
No, there was never a request.
Thank you so much. You can proceed, Honorable Member.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, for that progressive intervention. General, on page 13, paragraph 20 of your statement, you are saying Mr. Nkabinde said he was put under significant pressure. Did he mention to you who was putting him under pressure?
No, he did not mention that.
So you didn't make a follow-up question of who exactly was putting him under pressure?
No, I did not.
Okay, with regards, you have also mentioned that there was an attempt to link General Khumalo to the murder of Cindy Somakaka, the former SG of the ANC Youth League. And the impression which I drew from how you expressed it is that that attempt was just frivolous. It had no material evidence. So they wanted to use it to destroy General Khumalo. Are you in possession of any evidence, even if you don't disclose it, if it's going to compromise the investigation hereof? Are you in possession of any evidence which suggests that General Khumalo was never involved in the matter of Sindiso Magaqa, and therefore any attempt to associate him with such was nothing but just a frivolous attempt to destroy him?
Honorable Chair and members, I was the Commander, Provincial Commissioner acting in KZN 2018-2019. I've been involved with the work of the PKTT, and each time they are conducting investigation, they were keeping me informed about the status of the investigation. That's why I know about the arrest of the mayor, I know about the arrest of the municipal manager, I know about the arrest of police officers, I know about the arrest of the hitmen, and I know about the challenges the team faced when they're trying to seek information from crime intelligence in order to establish whether indeed is it true that the vehicle and the firearm that were used were sourced from crime intelligence. If so, what was the project that the crime intelligence was busy with that led into such? So when I was briefed about all those things, and also a meeting that was held at Peter Maritzburg prison, new prison, over the weekend, outside the visiting hours, where a group of men dressed in black suits and driving fancy cars that came to have a private meeting in prison with the mayor at the time, and some people that were arrested discussing that case, a meeting that ended with information coming to us that the people are going to court on Monday, the mayor is going to be released in court. And exactly that what happened. When they went out to court, they were all released. The mayor and the city manager were released, except the hitman. That's why the hitman is now making stories, because he was part of the initial arrest. So I knew about all that information. But when I saw in the media, the Mr. Adams, member of this parliament, who I believe engaged with one of police officers that were arrested, that is currently in custody in KZN, and who then the member who used to work with the political killings task team, arrested by the same task team, he's then becoming a whistleblower by claiming that the team is the one that was behind the murder of Magaqa. Forgetting that the team is the one who was behind the arrest of the people that were involved in the murder of Magaqa. That mispresentation, which landed in a public space, and the narrative was drawn that Khumalo is a bad person as a result of that. The PKTT are bad people. As we speak now, members that used to work in the team have been visited to issue statement, to write statement, negative statement against the team. It's something that's happening as we speak, by the people that want to justify that there was a need to establish the team. I've said members were arrested within the team. If Khumalo or any other member that was working in the team was wrong, they can be arrested as well. Don't dissolve the team because of those individuals. Over 30 police officers were arrested. The team was not dissolved because they was doing his job, arresting on one of their own as well. So if Khumalo is one of the people that should have been arrested as a result, that evidence should have been presented. We've got IPID that has a responsibility to investigate police conduct. They should have been approached and given evidence and let them investigate. But that was not objective because there was no facts on that. But it was just a smear campaign to make sure that they destroy the image of General Khumalo and the members that are working in that PKTT.
If my memory serves me well, General, the decision to release the two members that we have spoken about, the former mayor and the former municipal manager, which was made in Umzimkhulu Magistrate Court, was that there was no insufficient evidence. But following from what we have explained, the assumption that we can draw is that there was a collaboration of the police and the prosecuting authority, the NPA, because a decision to withdraw charges is not made by a police officer, but by a prosecutor. So I was telling this committee that for the release of those two individuals, the police collaborated with the NPA, and if so, is there any investigation that is underway in pursuit of finding evidence in that regard?
The collaboration, I wouldn't say between the police and the prosecution, but the prosecution that took a decision that we're collaborating with, I believe, maybe the lawyers of the arrested people, and of course, there are officials within correctional service in Pietermaritzburg that were part of this, because they allow such a meeting to take place in times where the visiting should not have been allowed. And so, and that led into the release of those arrested people at the time. The investigation continued, it never stopped. The conviction that has happened now of the person that when they were released, they made a deal with the hitman that will look after him. So, but when they're outside, they could not look after the person as they had committed. So that's what made this man to be angry in custody. That's why he ended up talking about the things that he was talking about, that he was part of this and they didn't look after him, so therefore he's confessing on what has happened.
All right, so yeah, that unfortunately then is where we come to the end of the show for today. That's also where we ended off in terms of our coverage coming out of the ad hoc committee's investigation into the claims and allegations of corruption and interference within the SAPS. I think you can expect some coverage of it throughout the day on different programs right here on SAFM. Thank you so much for tuning in. The show will be back with you again tomorrow between 9 and midday. So we'll take a quick break. On the other side of that is the book reading.
Hashtag SAFM Talking Point.
Let me get this right, Ron. You're a plumber by day and Pretoria's smoothest wedding DJ by night.
Yeah, it started out as a passion and now I've got bookings until December. And a smoke machine that needs its own seatbelt.
And you sold your car to buy a van through We Buy Cars.
Brew, it was music to my ears. Zero admin, no long queues. They pulled in, checked it out, and before I knew it, I had cash in the bank.
Now that's a banger. We Buy Cars. Geared for your passion, geared for you.
Power, land, loyalty, blood. In the heart of Montana, the fight for the Dutton Ranch is far from over. Betrayals cut deep, enemies close in, and every choice could be their last. Yellowstone, Season 4, where family is everything and nothing is off limits. Every Tuesday, starting September 2nd at 7 p.m., only on S3. S3, open up. S3.
This October month, SAFM shines a light on mental health awareness. This month, we bring you conversations that break the stigma, encourage care, and provide strategies to protect your mental well-being. Because it's okay not to be okay. And together, we can build a healthier tomorrow. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
For the best marine migration, you go to KZN. For the best hiking trails, you go to the Drakensberg. For the best flower show, you go to Namakwaland. And for the best in investments, go to Nedbank. Earn up to 10.47% interest with a Nedbank Electronic Optimum Plus account. For better returns, open an Electronic Optimum Plus account today. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Hi everyone, my name is Itumele Nkune, SABC Sport football analyst. When I feel down and I listen to gospel, it gives me motivation. I'm a person who loves all genres. If I was a chef, my favorite meal that I would prepare would be pap, cabbage, meaty bones, with a bit of acha on the side. My favorite language is Portuguese. Bom dia, como está? Estou bem. What I like about SABC Sport is they give you the platform and the permission to be yourself and speak any language.
Catch the ever-passionate Itumeleng Kuna's analysis of Ibola Leju on match days, live on Latuma. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Please note that the views expressed in this book are not that of the station. Listeners' discretion is advised. SFM presents another episode of the book Boardroom Dancing by Nolita Fakude, read by Vuyokazi Tere.
In October 1989, my son Pila was born. Unfortunately, my joy at becoming a mother was tempered not long after my child's birth by the hugely disappointing news that I had not been accepted to the master's program at Rhodes. The department cited a lack of life experience as the reason, explaining that those accepted already had work experience and the average age in the class was 30. While some people suggested that I just enjoy my time off with my baby, I knew that wouldn't work for me. Surrounded by people with advanced degrees and having begun to embrace my professional ambitions, I suddenly found myself with nothing to do but care for a small baby. I felt stuck. Meanwhile, change was apace all around me. It was at the end of 1989. And even though we did not know it at the time, Parliament was about to unban all political parties and release Nelson Mandela from prison. That said, people were still regularly arrested, banished from campus, or simply disappeared, and political discussions remained shrouded in secrecy. While always supportive of my academic and career interests, Presto had taken it upon himself to shelter me from politics. He would go out but wouldn't tell me where and wouldn't let me come. There are no women there. Oh, it's too dangerous, he would say. Coming from my mother's house, where there was nothing I could not do as a woman, this behavior left me feeling excluded and patronized. I had never personally viewed my gender as a barrier to anything, and I would get outraged when I sometimes heard men speaking about women as if we were weak or incapable. I'd been raised by women who made their own money and were active participants in their own lives. I could not relate to any other paradigm. On the contrary, in the home where I was raised, if there was a cow or pig to be slaughtered, I was in the scrum with the guys, helping to select the animal. The day before my graduation in Umtata, we had bought a sheep to slaughter for a braai. While Presto and the other men were having a good time drinking, the sheep remained very much alive. I was getting annoyed because we needed to clean the meat and start cooking, and I didn't want to be up the whole night before my graduation. Finally, I called some of the younger boys who were around and 1 or 2 others who were sober. I know how to slaughter. You, hold here. You, hold here, I said, instructing them to help me so we could get on with it. One of the kids involved told me later that it was one of the most shocking experiences of his life, as he had never seen a woman involved in slaughtering a sheep. For me, taking action had nothing to do with being a man or a woman. You just did what you needed to do. In my naive way, I honestly didn't think there were things that I could not do as a woman. Yet here I was, suddenly feeling like my entire identity had come down to being someone else's wife or mother. I knew I needed more. Part 2, Stepping Out. When we commit to a vision to do something that has never been done before, there is no way to know how to get there. We simply have to build the bridge as we walk on it. Robert E. Quinn. From Building the Bridge as You Walk on It, A Guide to Leading Change. Chapter 4. Liberations. Scanning the Sunday paper classified ads one morning in March 1990, I came across a notice from Woolworths announcing that they were accepting applications for their graduate trainee program. Training university graduates to become managers in retail since the 1980s, the Woolworths program was extremely well regarded. The fact was that a job in retail did not seem even remotely related to clinical psychology. Nonetheless, I figured my experience from my mother's shop might help me to make the cut. If I got in, I could complete the program and perhaps end up in human resources, where I would pick up some of that working world life experience that I lacked, and then qualify to do my master's in clinical psychology in a few years' time. I applied through an agency and was called in for 2 interviews. In July that year, I received the news that I had been accepted. Our 1990 cohort was the first in the program's history to include Black graduates. Woolworths, still part of the Wooltrue Group at the time, had always been a progressive company, and with Nelson Mandela recently released from prison and the ANC unbanned, its leadership, like many business leaders, had seen the writing on the wall. The company approached the country's transformation as an opportunity to excel in new ways, and our trainee group represented its first concrete effort to address the need for diversity in management. While my decision to participate in the 2-year program meant moving from Alice to Cape Town, Presto supported my decision. In fact, he always encouraged my professional aspirations. First with my studies and now with my career. From a relatively poor family himself, he used to say that with my privileged upbringing and the great school I had attended, I had a responsibility to get out there and make something of those advantages. He was also an incredibly loving and involved father. I used to joke that he had more maternal instincts than I initially did. My parenting strengths only emerged a bit later. With Presto's post at the University of Fort Hare and our home and community located in Alice, we decided I would go to Cape Town on my own, leaving 9-month-old Pila with his father. I would commute fortnightly by bus or minibus taxi to see them. This arrangement seemed perfectly logical at the time, but looking back, I am keenly aware of how essential a supportive partner is to anyone with serious career ambitions. I don't know if women can ever have it all in the sense of finding a stable balance between professional success and family life. Personally, it has always been more of a juggling than balancing act. However you may view it, a reliable and trustworthy support network is absolutely vital to working parents, regardless of the level at which you operate. Moving to Cape Town on my own was a real stepping out for me. I had lived such a sheltered life, having always been under someone else's wing and protection. First, my mother's watchful eye after my father's passing, then at a strict Seventh-day Adventist boarding school, thereafter with my husband, whom I met early on in university. Eager to get the life experience that Rhodes had insisted was required, I found myself energized by my independence and the opportunity to again apply my mind and will to something other than a crying baby. My son has been and remains the greatest joy and pride of my life. But looking back, I think those early months may have been clouded with the postpartum depression, though I didn't have the term for it back then. In contrast to Presto, my mother was not impressed by my decision to go and work in Cape Town. Do you mean to tell me that after all these years of studying psychology, you now want to be a shopkeeper? Hey, you might as well have come back to work with me in the shop here at home, she said. Though I knew she was partly joking, I detected her disappointment that I was moving more than 1,000 kilometers away. I would no longer be able to relieve her of some of her duties in running a shop, something I had done regularly while I was in Alice, which was only 100 kilometers from Stutteram. Also, as her firstborn child, I had been there for her since she was widowed, and she now felt abandoned. I realized then that it had never occurred to her that I might not see her business, which she had to run so successfully, and which had paid for me and so many others to get through university and more, as such an attractive proposition. In spite of my desire for more in life, I found my mother's belief in herself and the value of what she had built inspiring.
There was another episode of the book Boardroom Dancing by Nolita Fakude, read by Vuyokazi Tebe. The book is available online and in all leading bookstores countrywide. It is broadcast on SAFM at 11:45 Monday to Thursdays on The Talking Point. The book is produced for the station by Vovi Patala, read by Vuyokazi Tebe. Technical production, Wiseman Manele, Nanda Koza, and Tato Mapuru.
Twelve o'clock on Wednesday, the 8th of October, 2025. A very warm welcome to Updated Noon here on SAFM. Leading the conversation, I'm Sakina Kamwendo. Coming up in the next hour.
I don't have money, Honorable Chair and members, to hire bodyguards for my family members. It's impossible. I cannot do that. So their safety can only be guaranteed by men and women in blue that are out there that's supposed to protect everyone else.
KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi says that he cannot guarantee the safety of his family members, but depends on the men and women in blue like every other citizen. And
of the 6 days being there will never be about us, but it will be about the memory of what was on the walls within those prisons. We came to the realization of all Palestinians that have been detained there, who have left their names on the walls, who have left their blood stains on the walls.
South African Global Samud Flotilla activists have arrived back home after being detained for 6 days by the Israeli government. Please let us know what your views are on these stories and others. You can let us know via SMS on 41391. It will be charged at R1.50 per SMS. You can also write to us via X at SABC News_radio, or you can send us a WhatsApp voice note on 082-692-3909. Well, these and more stories coming up on this Hump Day edition of Update at Noon. First, though, is your latest news with Ondelambana.
Thank you, Sakina. On the top stories, Mandla Mandela calls on South African government to take action against Israel and the ZEP validity extended to May 2027. For SAFM News, I am Ondelambana, and a very good day. Former President Nelson Mandela's grandson, Mandla Mandela, has called on the South African government to take stronger action against Israel. This follows the return of South African Global Samud Flotilla activists from Jordan after they were abducted by Israeli forces while en route to Gaza to deliver humanitarian aid and challenge the Israeli blockade. At a press conference held at OR Tambo International Airport, Mandela says all entities supporting Israel should be arrested.
We call on our government, as you have been able to take the apartheid Israel to the ICJ and ICC, we call on you to arrest all those that are complicit in fueling the genocide and selling coal to apartheid Israel. We call on the government that have enabled the IOF to carry on its genocide and systematic ethnic cleansing of Palestinians to be arrested and prosecuted.
KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi says he does not regard the safety of his family as more important than other South Africans. He is testifying for the second day before Parliament's ad hoc committee looking into concerns of national security. It was established to probe allegations of criminal infiltration, corruption and political interference in the criminal justice system that Mkhwanazi made in July. Yesterday, Mkhwanazi's evidence was led by the evidence leader, Advocate Norman Arendse, and today he's facing questions from members of the committee. Asked whether his family is safe, Mkhwanazi answered that their safety remains in the hands of the SAPS members.
The safety of my family is a responsibility of police officers around the country. I don't have money, Honorable Chair and members, to hire bodyguards for my family members. Their safety can only be guaranteed by men and women in blue that are out there that's supposed to protect everyone else. Their safety is equal to the safety of every citizen. Their vulnerability in terms of crime applies to the rest of the citizens of this country. So they are not different to anyone else. There's no special provisions for them.
The ninth state witness in the case of theft of more than $500,000 from President Cyril Ramaphosa's Phalaphala farm in Bilabila has told the Modimolle Regional Court in Limpopo that accused number 1 Emanuela David wanted to buy a car worth 400,000 rand in cash. The former car dealership employee testified that David had a stack of US dollars which he allegedly placed inside a drawer at the dealership. The witness said he refused to proceed with the sale as the dealership policy does not allow cash transactions.
Then he asked me price. I said 399, 300,000, like 400,000. So he said he wanted car. So how I must pay? I said no. You say you want to buy cash. So I got no right to take any cash, but I have to call my boss or manager. I said no problem. So I tried to call my boss, Sakib. No reply.
When he asked for the restroom, you said he requested to put something inside the drawer. What was that?
It was money. What did he take dollar money he put on a drawer? State.
Home Affairs Minister Dr. Leon Schreiber has issued a directive that extends the validity of the Zimbabwean exemption permit until 28 May 2027. The said permit, which allows approximately 178,000 Zimbabweans to live, work and study in South Africa lawfully, was set to expire on the 28th of November 2025. Kenny Mapanga reports.
A successful court challenge against the termination of the ZEP placed the permit's future squarely in the minister's hands, and directed that any decision about the permit must be preceded by a rational, constitutionally fair process. Schreiber, however, confirms in the directive that the consultation process is still ongoing. This latest directive protects any holder of the permit from being arrested, ordered to depart, or be detained for the purposes of deportation for any reason related to him or her not having any valid exemption permit. Kenny Mapanga, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Recapping the top story, former President Nelson Mandela's grandson, Mandla Mandela, has called on the South African government to take stronger action against Israel. I'm on Dilambana for SFM News Alliance at 12:30.
Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo, midday to 1 p.m. Update at noon with Sakina Kamwendo.
Thanks, Rondella. Good afternoon, everyone. 7 minutes after 12 here on this Hump Day edition of Update at Noon. Thanks so much for being with us. Well, day 2 of the ad hoc committee's investigation, and they, of course, they have as their first witness Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. It was a long day yesterday. They finished after 11. Quite a few issues, of course, ventilated. This morning they started with something that they ended on last night, and that was the issue of a DA member. She is, of course, an alternate member for this ad hoc committee, Diane Kohler-Barnard, and there was a request that Diane Kohler-Barnard recuse herself, given that she was implicated directly by General Mkhwanazi yesterday while he was being led in evidence. So this morning the committee started on that matter, but Diane Kohler-Barnard Lagarde not present, and the DA did indicated that she would not be present for today, and we'll see how that develops as time goes on. But then, of course, it was the time of the MPs, the members of parliament, to now put their questions to General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, which is currently happening. But already some very interesting answers coming through from the General on the questions that he's been asked. The Sindiso Makatqa case, the MK, one of the MK MPs asking about that, and the General indicating that police were involved in that murder of Sindiso Makatqa. And particularly interesting that, the fact that police were interested, because if you remember what had happened post the death of Sindiso Makatqa. If you've been listening to this station in particular, you'll remember the name Thabiso Zulu. And Thabiso Zulu was a whistleblower regarding that Sindiso Makatqa case. And he was on the run. And I remember Thabiso Zulu calling me on a Sunday morning and saying to me he's on the run, and I could hear he was in total distress. And at that point, I then sent a message to the minister, one of the ministers, Minister of State Security, I think it was, saying, but this whistleblower is calling me, and there seems to be a problem, because as far as I was concerned, as far as I knew, there was a threat assessment that was done, and it was indicated that he did indeed qualify for protection. But then the police never actually gave him the protection, even though there was a court order to that effect. And this, for me, is particularly interesting now, listening to the fact that police were implicated in the death of Sindiso Makatqa, among other things. So the committee continues. I can tell you at the moment what's happening is the third member, I think is the alternate member for MK Party, has been asking his questions, but he preferred to put his questions to General Mkhwanazi in isiZulu. And they are now deliberating about this particular matter because the committee doesn't have translation services. So an objection was raised or concern was raised by one of the other members regarding this. The chair then started off by saying, well, it is a valid concern given that this particular matter is in the interest of every South African. But the ANC then objected to that, and that's when I started speaking to you. So I didn't quite hear what they had to say and the MK. But I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break and then we'll take you there.
This October month, SFM joins the world in breast cancer awareness. We bring you conversations that highlight the importance of early detection, survivor stories that inspire hope, and expert advice that could save lives. Together, let's spread awareness and support the fight against breast cancer. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Sakina Kamwendo on SAFM.
11 minutes after 12. Let's take you now to Cape Town. And this is, of course, for the parliamentary probe into the claims that were made by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi.
Using the word reasonably in most cases so that all of us understand that let's exercise reasonableness. Where we experience constraints, let's exercise and don't use those constraints as an excuse not to do certain things. The languages, nobody can get into that debate. African languages have to be promoted like any other language that is spoken in this country. And our languages are the ones that affirm our identity and pride and cultural heritage. It's not something that we should debate. I very much agree with what honorable members are saying, but can we please exercise reasonableness? Thank you so much. You can now proceed.
Mayor Kenza, Chair.
You had used 3 minutes of your time.
Huh?
Yes, you had used 3 minutes, and that excludes the responses that the general.
I have a time, Chair, here. I have only used
So
1 minute.
you
You
have
can
7
revert back.
you have 7 minutes now to conclude your.
You can revert, Chair.
To conclude your task.
Check your
Thank you so
answer,
much.
Chair, to show you I've used only 1 minute. All right, no problem. I'll respect you, Chair. Thank you, Nkalenkos. Nkalenkos, baphinde bangithuma ke South Africa futhi. Bathi angibabongele kuyinsizwa ezigadile. But baphinde bathi angibuza ukuthi how safe is the PKTT currently?
Honorable Chair members, on the PKTT, I'm not worrying much. I worry a lot about the team in Gauteng. The counterintelligence investigation operations that is taking place in Gauteng, I worry about their safety. Why do I say that? Because they were put in a safe house to operate from. The member of this house, together with others, they publish the photos of that house in the media. So therefore, their working place is compromised. The members that are operating the driving vehicles, those vehicles have been exposed in public. And I believe in some degree, maybe even the names of the members might be known. And their safety for me is a concern. The safety of the members that are working in Gauteng, they can't go home. If they go home, they go with the entire delegation of police officers protecting them. So their life is disrupted. And their families, I don't think they are protected either. So it is that group in Gauteng. I spoke about 2 sergeants yesterday. There are other junior members that have joined in that are working with them now, because the team has grown bigger. Together with the 10 that came from KZN. So it's quite a lot of them that are part of that operation. It's those members that I worry more than I worry about the PKTT, because PKTT is in KZN. Yeah, well, at least they have me and the rest of men and women employed in KZN. They should be safe. I cannot guarantee the Gauteng team the same.
Who's in charge of the Gauteng one, and what has he done?
The Gauteng one is Gerald Khumalo that is currently arrested. The one is told he must not enter premises of intelligence.
So currently nobody is in charge of them?
Well, I think the members are trying to operate from wherever they're operating from, because they have been compromised wherever they want to work. Now, within crime intelligence, they cannot operate because what they are trying to deal with involves members within crime intelligence, and the boss of crime intelligence was told by court not to enter the premises, so that they become vulnerable, those members. So
if I may interject, the member you speak about who was taking out photos and stuff like that, are you able to tell us the name of who's that member? Because I think that's the worst the member can do and put.
Yeah, well, the member of this parliament, Ms. Korabana, published the photos of the house. Some of the properties as members are working from in her media statement that she issued. I'll reference to it if I see it here, but it's in the public domain, it's known, and she published that. So here's the address, here's the house, and here's this, here's that. They got that information from members within intelligence that were against the work that the team is doing, and they took it out there to the media. So, and that compromised the operations. That's why I'm saying that I worry more about the Gauteng team than I will about the PKTT. I think PKTT in KZN, they operate in a place where they've got men and women that knows how to fight the enemy that are surrounding them. So they're quite okay in KZN. But the Gauteng counterintelligence team, I cannot say the same about them.
Okay, I've served under you, under SAPS when I was still working there. So I don't know this part, if I'll be wrong or right. Would what the member done be criminally? Be classified as criminal to take out information of safe houses?
Yeah, no, definitely that's a criminal offense, and I do hope that the authorities that are responsible for it, they're going to assist us in making sure such is investigated. I call for an investigation by state security on these leakages of information to the media, amongst of the things that I spoke about yesterday, for specific journalists that keep writing about these things, including the members of this parliament and members within crime intelligence, as well as the Inspector General of Intelligence.
Do you have any proof or evidence of this DA member called Bernard who took out the photos of such?
Well, I don't know who took the photos, but I know that she participated in the circulation of the photos of these residents and addresses in a question that she had asked in Parliament, which I made a reference to when I presented yesterday.
General, let me leave that one because it's Katsam is not. The first thing the president of this country, Babu Ramaphosa, does is to take intelligence into his office. Now you come and say, you said crime intelligence listens to our conversation, then will blackmail and capture members. And for me, that's the biggest threat to our democracy because it means MPs that are vocal about issues that are going to be blackmailed, and that won't happen. That won't help me towards a good governance. So my question is, what's your take on intelligence being under the office of the president? One, the office, or do you think that would allow the officers to be able to investigate him or close associates of the president? And wouldn't that give him power to manipulate those who go against him?
Honorable Chair, honorable members, I'm an official within the South African Police Service. I don't work within intelligence structure. Therefore, I cannot comment about the working arrangements of the state security at the office of the president. I know for a fact that when the state security was having their own minister back in the days, and they were not reporting to the office of the president back then, there were wrong things that were happening within intelligence, state security specific. There was even theft of money within the facility. So there were a lot of wrong that was happening there at state security, and that was happening, whereas that same entity was not reporting to the president. So whether they are within the presidency or they are outside the presidency, it doesn't seem to make any difference. If they are bad outside, they will be bad inside. I cannot see the difference between that because, yeah, I'm privy to some things that were happening there. Because, yeah, let me not go further on it because we'll end up saying things that I shouldn't be talking about here. But
no, no,
well, we'll leave it here. Some of us have got gray hair already because we've seen a lot. We've heard a lot. The privilege I have is that in many other parts of the security cluster, there are men and women that felt that it's important for them to share information with me. They've been sharing information with me from back then, and they're still sharing information with me now. And I know evidence. And I think the good thing they did was to make sure that they make use of people that are close to me to work in those environments so that I'm privy to such information. So that's what I'm saying. Some of things don't belong to this place. It belongs to the Joint Standing Committee of Intelligence. If they were to invite me one day, I'll share things with them that I don't think they'll be ready to hear themselves.
In your proposals last night, you mentioned certain things that you wish in the subs they should be changed or changed that can be used lapaya. So I want to ask this question, Uguti. In your own general knowledge, would you think it is safe for our state intelligence to remain in the office of the president? And would that not hinder or delay certain investigations that might be against the president, that might be against his friends and close associates? I want to repeat that question because I want your own thinking. Is it safe? I've never seen it in the world where intelligence is in the office of the president, and I don't know why. But I feel that alone hampers some MPs might not be able to be vocal about certain things. So what's your take on that? And if you even said, if you were sitting here, Advocate Johnson sitting that side, you'll be able to question him to give us some answers. So I'm asking you, in this same position, would you be able to tell us or South Africa, is that a proper way of doing things, or would you prefer it being done like that? And at the same time, doesn't that give power to politicians, where intelligence resides in the office of a politician, a senior politician of the country, who has 10 years in the office. When he exits, how safe is the country? Thank you.
Honorable Chair, members, I don't want to go deeper into discussing the structure of government because I'm not a leader in government. I'm not elected to be there. I'm not appointed to be in that position. So expressing my opinion as a citizen is one thing, but I'm sitting here to come and account about what transpired in July and what we're dealing with as a police. So I said earlier, I know that intelligence at one stage, when at least I was involved, the police management at the time as acting national commissioner, the intelligence was not falling under the office of the president. It was standing independently somewhere. But there were bad things happening there at the very same intelligence, while it is not at the office of the president. So I don't see then why it would be different now. That now it's in the office of the president, it is exposed to be doing wrong. If it's outside the office, it's not. But I have evidence that it was wrong then. They were doing wrong at the time, whilst they were outside the office of the president. So what will stop them not to do now? If you take it back and they go outside the office of the president, what difference is it going to make? When people are dirty, they are dirty, regardless of where they are working. So perhaps the parliament might want to look at whether is any risk associated with that and any evidence that can be produced to support that, and then make recommendations through the Joint Standing Committee of Intelligence and through the class and the president in order to restructure that if need be. But for me, as Jerome Kwana sitting here, I can comment about the positioning of crime intelligence because it's within my space. But to comment about intelligence community as SSA department, they are independent away from me. I don't know how they operate. I'm not part of them. So for me to comment on it, it will be wrong. So I wouldn't want to get into that. Invite me to talk about crime intelligence and make my proposals about it. Maybe I can. I made some yesterday about how they must account and so forth. And part of what I might recommend on crime intelligence, they shouldn't report to a deputy national commissioner because that post constitutionally doesn't even have to be there. So the head of crime intelligence is supposed to report to the national commissioner and to the Joint Standing Committee and Parliament, then account here and Inspector General of Intelligence, and of course the security or the intelligence structure that is established at NECOC and the likes. This presence of the Deputy National Commissioner post create this problem where JRSBA then want to intervene, and the Joint Standing Committee invite JRSBA to come and present issues of intelligence, and yet it's not a command of intelligence. So it's part of the deficiencies that we have to correct.
One last question. How do we breed police who will stand firm for the country like you did? And how do we protect them from being killed after they have done so well, like PKTT, which is overlooked when it comes to being recognized or rewarded?
Yeah, that's a difficult question. I think because of the members of government or members of parliament and all the leaders of our society that must do something to make sure that there's an employment out there, that the youth go to university and study and they get an opportunity to go and work. And by so doing, they'll do what they're passionate about. But we find of late, most recent advertisement, we're looking for 5,000 police officers. We have more than 1 million applications. And more than 50% of those are graduates. They all want to be police officers. They don't have it in their heart to chase criminals. They don't have it in their heart to lay their lives before the citizens to protect them. About them is job. They have to get employment. So they're applying to join the police not because they want to protect and serve. They're joining the police because it is a career for them that they want to pursue. They're unemployed, they're sitting at home. So if you were to ask me about the police officers that are committed to do the job, there are many of them. But unfortunately, I cannot thumbs up now and give the percentage of the total workforce. How many of them are actually dedicated? How many of them are not? We have 3 categories of employees that we have. We have those that want to lay their lives. And the majority of those that want to lay their life, They listen to the guidances that you give them as a police in terms of equipping themselves with regard to survival tactics, because we teach them those things. And they practice that. They stay fit, they stay healthy, and they stay sharp all the time. They don't go into dangerous situations alone without inviting their colleagues to accompany them. So those are the good ones that really do what we try to help them to do. And there's limitation on what government can do to protect the protector. The protector is supposed to protect the citizens, so therefore the protector must be equipped with resources, physical and skills and the likes, to allow that person to protect himself or herself. So we have that group that is there, that we must continue affording the opportunity to be reskilled so that they learn the tricks and tactics that are going to help them to survive. But then we have the group that is lazy in the middle, that missing group in the middle who doesn't want to work, who just enjoys a salary at the end of the month. Something needs to be done about them. That's why performance management and the likes that needs to be reviewed, because there's quite a lot of them that are somewhere in the middle. They are not acting because some of them are lazy, but some of them are not acting because they're afraid of the consequences of acting against criminals. They end up not doing anything. So we have to deal with that group. But then we have the rogue squad on the side, the criminals within the system, few of them. But I believe that our labor laws that deals with the punishment of those, it's allowing them to stay within the organization despite all the evidence that might be presented to get them out. Technicalities, you dismiss a person who was involved with robbery, caught red-handed, arrested, and then it is dismissed in the organization, and he makes an appeal through the council. And on technical grounds, some of the technical ground is because there was no one representing the state who came to argue the case, therefore a default judgment is given. We are forced to reinstate that person back into the organization. It's the labor law that allows that to happen. So it does not take away that he's a criminal. So he's reinstated back into the service because the system allows it. Then you see it with a person that is already been found or arrested for serious crime, but he still wears the uniform with you. And that's what we need to try and fix. So you have that rogue squad that I wouldn't worry about their safety. We have this missing group in the middle that I shouldn't worry much about their safety. But we have the hardworking cops, as we're talking about. We need to provide them with resources, physical, to help them to stay safe. We have to provide them with different skills that should allow them. And as we are saying, motivation is key. The reward system that we have perhaps might need some adjustment. Yes, we do have, but it might need to perhaps to be readjusted so that it benefits the majority instead of the few. Yes, we are going to reward a person. For instance, let me use an example that we always do. We'll give a vehicle to a top police officer that we have, but the vehicle costs R500,000. But you have more than 10 or 20 police officers who are actually doing exceptional work, but you don't have means to reward